Alright guys, in today's video we're going to talk about how to use git log and git diff to see the history of your repository and the changes made throughout the history of that repository. So let's get into it. So first thing, let's fire up the old git command prompt using git bash. I'm already in a repository that I created called it log. And if you look in here, we're clean. So the first thing I want to show you guys, git log. So what does git log do? Git log will show you what has happened in the history of that repository. So as you go along, you'll be making commits, your teammates will be making commits. And if you want to see what's happened in the past, you can go back and look at that using git log. Now, the command for that is git log. So I'm going to run git log on this repository that I've had, and wow. All right, so you can see these are a bunch of commits that I made. You can see the commit ID, the author, the email address, the date, and the commit message. Now there's flags you can use to make this more easy to read. The one I like to use is git log -- one line. Okay. Now what does one line do? It truncates everything, so you could see here that the commit ID is not as long. There's no author information. There's no date. It's just the commit message and the branches and what the head is pointing to, which branch the head is pointing to. I also like to use graph and all. Usually when I run the git log command for myself, I'm using all three of these. And so when you do all, you could see all the branches and a graph here on the left. So what does this graph tell us? The first three commits were on this master branch, and then there was a divergence here to the feature one branch, and then that feature one branch was merged back into the master branch. So it's just a little visual representation that you could see on how those branches kind of have operated with each other in the past. So let's go on and move to git diff. So what does git diff do? Git diff will allow you to see what has changed between commits, between branches, and between the different stages of, let's say, a file, between what's called the working directory, the index, also known as staged, and the object database. I'll walk you through one of the that scenario. So let's open up Visual Studio Code, one of my favorite browsers, my favorite IDEs, and you know what, let's add a line here in test.txt, and we're going to call this tutorial on diff, and I'm going to save that. So what I did, I just made a edit on the test file. I haven't added it yet, and so I'm going to show you the different stages that a file could be in. So before making any changes, you have what's called the working directory, the index, also known as staged, and you have the object database. So I went in and made a change. And so what that did is it adds those changes to the working directory. So if I want to see the difference between what's in my working directory and what is staged, I can run a command called get diff. Okay. After running get diff, you see we got some information down here. You have A version and the B version of this file, and you got these minuses and pluses. This is sort of like the key when you're looking at the changes to see which file was changed. So when we come down a little bit, it shows you what line, and you see this minus here, that's referring to the A file. So what line in the A file and what line in the B file. So this is starting at line 4 and going 4 lines after that, and this is starting at line 4 and going 5 lines after that. Which makes sense because we added a line on line, well, not line 5, but that would be 4 plus 5, so probably line 8 or 9. I'm not, it'll show us here, let's see, line 8. All right, so when you come down a little bit more, you could see the actual file. Tutorial on diff was added. Diff test, you know, maybe I didn't commit those changes before. Diff test, tutorial on diff. Yeah, so make a long story short, it's just going to show you the actual change between working directory and index. So let's go ahead and add this, git add test.txt, and when I say add, what that's doing is it's coming to the next stage in the process. It's taking that file, and after running git add, it's now in the index, also known as staged, as I mentioned before. So if I come back here and try to run git diff, nothing's going to happen because those two, the working directory and the index, are now the same. So you're not going to see any differences. But let's say before you commit, you want to know what's the difference between your stage file and files that are in the object database. So how do we do that? Let's come back here. We're going to add a flag, git diff staged. Okay, and now we can see the difference between index and object database. So let's go ahead and commit that. Now when I commit, we're in the final stage of that, where that file is now in the object database. So all three at this point are the same. So if you run git diff, you won't see anything. If you run git diff staged, you aren't going to see anything because those files are the same, which I'll go ahead and show you. So you're not going to get anything. So that's how you can see the different changes being made across the working directory, index, and object database as that file is moving through that process. There's also a way you could see the difference between we'll take a look here. Let me clear that. Git log one line all graph. Okay, there's also a way to see the differences between commits. Let's say I want to see what happened between the second commit and third commit. Git diff B2EFEC9, and then we're going to compare that to F94F19E. Okay, so looking at this. Oh, no. So yeah, that's right. So I added 2 lines, line 2 and line 3 to the, it's kind of confusing. The text I added was called line 2 and line 3. But this is how you could see what changed in the file. And the other one is you could check the difference between branches. So let's go ahead and see the branches we have. We got master and feature. So I'm going to compare what's in the feature 1 branch to my source of master, and you could see in the master all these lines of text were added with the pluses, because the plus, you can see the plus is the B file, that's master, and the A file is the minus. So that's how you could compare the differences between different branches. Now, I'm just showing these commands. Now, it would be much easier to use probably your code editor to check the differences. But these are good to know. I hardly ever use these tags, but maybe they could come in handy just to be knowledgeable about them. But most of the time I'm just looking through the code editor and doing comparisons. I may do a video on that at a later time. But yeah, that wraps it up. So that's how you use git log to see what the history is in your project with some flags. We use one line, we used all, and we use graphs so we could get a visual of what happens when your branches diverge and when they're merged back in. We also talked about git diff, which you could use to see the differences between commit IDs, branches, and the different stages that a file may be in, which are the working directory, staging, and the object database. So guys, appreciate you watching. I hope you enjoyed the video and look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you.